Vita Nuova, the Poems, by Dante Alighieri. 3. To every loving heart and captive soul, into whose sight these present words may come, for some elucidation in reply, greetings I bring for this sweet Lord's sake. Love. The first 3 hours of night were almost spent, the time that every star shines down on us, when love appeared to me all of a sudden, and I still shudder at the memory. Joyous love looked to me while he was holding my heart within his hands, and in his arms my lady lay asleep wrapped in a veil. He woke her then, and trembling and obedient, she ate that burning heart out of his hand. Weeping I saw him then depart from me. 7. O you who travel on the road of love, pause here and look about for any man whose grief surpasses mine. I ask this only, hear me out, then judge if I am not indeed of every torment keeper and abode. Love, surely not for my sight worthiness, but through his nobleness, once gave me so serene and sweet a life, that many times I heard it said of me, Lord, what great qualities give this man's heart the richness of such joy? Now all is spent of that first wealthy of joy, that sprang to birth from love's bright treasury. I live in poverty, in writing's place comes insecurity, and therefore I have sought to be like those who cover up their poverty for shame. I dress in happiness, but in my heart I weep and waste away. 8. If love himself weep, shall not lovers weep, hearing for what sad cause he pours his tears? Love hears his ladies crying their distress, showing forth bitter sorrow through their eyes, to grieve how villainous death in gentle hearts has worked his cruel and all-destroying arts, and laid waste all that earth could find to praise in gentle lady save sweet chastity. Hear then how love paid homage to this lady. In human form I saw him weeping there, beside the still fair image of her grace. And often he would raise his eyes towards heaven, where that sweet soul already has his seat, which once on earth had worn enchanted flesh. Brute death, the enemy of tenderness, timeless mother of grief, judgment incontestable, severe, for your sick source of grief within my heart, that I must bear in misery. My tongue consumes itself with cursing you, and if I want to make you beg for mercy, I only need reveal your felonies, your guilt of every guilt. Not that you are not known for what you are, but rather to inflame whoever hopes of sustenance in love. You have bathed the world of gentlest grace, of all that in sweet ladies merits praise, in youth's gay tender years. You have destroyed all love's light heartedness. Who might this lady be, I shall not say, save that her qualities reveal her name. Who does not earn salvation, let him not hope to share her company. 9. As I rode out one day not long ago, my narrow roads, and heavy with the thought of what compelled my going, I met Love, in pilgrim's rags coming the other way. All his appearance seemed to speak such grief as kings might feel upon the loss of crown, and ever signing bent with thought he came, his eyes averted from all passers-by. Yet as we met he called to me by name and said to me, I come from that far land where I had sent your heart to serve my will. I bring it back, to court a new delight. And then so much of him was fused with me, he vanished from my sight, I know not how. 12. Ballad, I wish you to seek my love and go with him into my lady's presence, so that my exculpation which you sing may be explained to her by love, my lord. You travel, Ballad, with such graciousness that even without companions you well could venture boldly anywhere. But if with full assurance you would go, first go in search of love. Perhaps to go without him is unwise, because that one who is to hear you speak is angry with me now, or so I think. So were you not accompanied by him, most easily she might receive you ill. With sweetness singing in love's company, begin to sound these words after your first entreaty for compassion. My lady, he who sends me to you wishes that if it's to your liking, you hear me out and judge if he's excused. With me is love, who through your beauty's power at will can make this whole appearance change. Judge for yourself why love made his eyes rove, remembering his heart has never strayed. Tell her, my lady, his heart has remained so solid in its faith that every thought makes him a slave to you. First was he yours, and never has he strayed. If she should not believe you, tell her to question love, who knows the truth. Ask her with humble prayer before you end, if pardon be too troublesome to give, and she send orders to me that I die, and faithfully her servant will obey. And tell love, who is all compassion's key, before you take your leave, and who knows how to tell her my excuse. In recompense of my sweet melody, remain a while with her. Talk to her of your servant as you will. And if your prayers should win for him the prize, let peace be promised him by her clear smile. My gracious Ballad, if it please you, go, win yourself honor when the time is ripe. 13. All my thoughts are telling me of love. They have in them such great diversity that one thought makes me welcome all his power. Another thinks love's power is insane. Another makes me hope and brings delight. Another moves me oftentimes to tears. Only in begging pity all agree and tremble as they do with fearful heart. Now I know not from which to take my cue. Thus do I wander in a maze of love. And if I want to harmonize these thoughts, to do so I must call upon my foe by asking Lady Pity for defense. 14. You join with other ladies to deride me, and do not think, my lady, for what cause I cut so awkward and grotesque a figure when I stand gazing at your lovely form. Could you but know my soul in charity, then yours would melt from its accustomed scorn. For love, when he beholds me near to you, takes on a cruel and bold new confidence and puts my frightened senses to the sword, murdering this one, driving that one out, till only he is left to look at you. Thus, though is challenging, I am not so changed, but that I still can hear in my own soul my outcast senses mourning in their pain. 15. What could restrain me dies out of my mind when I stand in your presence, my heart's bliss. When I am near you, love is there to warn. Run, run the other way if you fear death. My blanching face reveals my fainting heart, which growing fainter looks for some support, and as I tremble in this drunken state, it seems that every stone is shouting, "Die!" He sins who witnesses my desperate state, and does not try to comfort my torn heart, though it were but the slightest show of grief, for pity's sake, and that by your mocking dies, once brought to life within my dying face, whose yearning eyes call death to take me now. 16. So many times there comes into my mind the dark condition love bestows on me, that pity comes and often makes me say, could anyone have ever felt the same? So forcefully and suddenly love strikes, that my life would all but abandon me, were it not for one last surviving spirit, allowed to live because it speaks of you. Hoping to help myself, I gather courage, and pale and drawn on lacking all defense, I come to see you hoping to be healed. But if I raise my eyes to look at you, a trembling starts at once within my heart, and drives life out and stops my pulses beat. 19. Ladies, refined and sensitive in love, I wish to speak with you about my lady, not thinking to complete her litany, but talking which perhaps may ease my mind. When I reflect upon her worthiness, a love so sweet makes itself felt in me that if at that point courage did not fail, my discourse would make lovers of you all. I do not wish to choose a lofty tone, for fear that my song fail and turn me base, but I shall tell you of her gracious state, defectively, to measure by her merit ladies and maidens sensitive in love, for such a thing is not for others' ears. The mind of God receives an angel's prayer that says, "My Lord, on earth is seen a living miracle proceeding from a soul whose light reaches as far as here." Heaven, that lacks his full perfection only in lacking her, asks for her of its Lord, and every saint is begging for his favor. Compassion for his creatures still remains, for God replies, referring to my lady, "My chosen ones now suffer peacefully, and while it pleases me, let your hope stay with one down there who dreads the loss of her, who when in hell shall say unto the damned, I have beheld the hope of heaven's blessed. My lady is desired in highest heaven. I want to tell you what her power does. A lady who aspires to graciousness should seek her company, for when she walks, love drives a killing frost into vile hearts that freezes and destroys their every thought, and there a thought remain to look at her, it has to change to good or else must die. And if she finds one worthy to behold her, he feels her power, for her least salutation bestows salvation on this favored one, and humbles him till he forgets all wrongs. This too has God Almighty graced her with. Whoever speaks with her shall speak with him. Love said of her, "How can flesh drawn from clay achieve such beauty and such purity?" He looks again into himself, he swears that God intended something new for earth. Her color is the paleness of the pearl in measure suited to her graciousness. She is the highest nature can achieve, and by her mold all beauty tests itself. From out her eyes, wherever they may love, come spirits that are all aflame with love. They pierce the eyes of any one that looks, and pass straight through till each one finds the heart. Upon her face you see depicted love, there where none dares to hold his gaze too long. My song, I know that you will go and speak to many ladies when I bid you leave, and now I warn you, since I raised you song, as love's true child, ingenious and plain, whomever you should meet with kindness pray. Please help me find my way, for I am meant to reach that one whose praises are my dress, and that your going will not be in vain. Do not waste time with any vulgar folk. Endeavor, if you can, to show yourself only to men and ladies who are worthy. They will direct you by the quickest path, and lead you to this lady and to love. Speak well of me to love, as well you should. 20. Love and the gracious heart are but one thing, as that wise poet puts it in his poem. As much can one without the other be, as without reason can the reasoning mind. Nature creates them when in loving mood. Love to be king, the heart to be his home, a place where love inactive lies in wait, sometimes a longer, now a shorter time. A worthy lady's beauty next is viewed with pleasure by the eyes, and in the heart desire for the pleasing thing is born, and for a while this beauty lingers there until love's spirit is aroused from sleep. A man of worth with ladies does the same. 21. The power of love born in my lady's eyes imparts its grace to all she looks upon. Men turn to gaze at her when she walks by. The heart of him she greets is made to quake, his face to whiten, forcing down his gaze. He sighs as all his defects flash in mind, all pride and indignation flee from her. Help me to honor her, most gracious ladies. All sweet conception, every humblest thought blooms in the heart of who hears her speak, and man is blessed at his first sight of her. The image of her when she starts to smile breaks out of words. The mind cannot contain it, a miracle too rich and strange to hold. 22. O you who come this way so mournfully, with downcast eyes in witness of your pain, where were you that the colour of your cheeks appears to have become like that of grief? Is it our sweetest lady you have seen bathing with tears, love's image in her face? O ladies, tell me, for my heart tells me, is it her grace that graces so your mien? And if you come from so profound a grief, may it please you to stay with me a while, and tell me truly what you know of her. I see your eyes, I see how they have wept, and how you come retreating all undone. My heart is touched and shaken at the sight. Are you the one that often spoke to us about Our Lady and to us alone? You do in sound of voice resemble him, but in your face we find another's look. What causes you to shed such bitter tears to make us melt with pity at their sight? Perhaps you saw her weeping and cannot conceal the sorrow in your aching heart. To us live grieving and a tearful way. To comfort us would be a grave offence, for we have heard her speak amid her sobs. Her face proclaims the agony she feels. If one of us had wished to look at it, that one had died of sorrow then and there. 23. A very young and sympathetic lady, extremely graced with human gentleness, who stood by me and heard me call on death, seeing the piteous weeping of my eyes, and hearing wild, confusing words I spoke, became so filled with fear she wept aloud. Then other ladies, made aware of me, thought that one weeping there beside my bed forced her to go away, and then drew near to bring me to my senses. One said to me, "Wake up." Another said, "Why are you so distressed?" With this I left the world of my strange dream, calling aloud the name of my dear lady. I called with voice so weak and filled with pain, and broken so by tears and anguished sobs, that my heart only heard her name called out, although there was a look of deep-felt shame that made itself stand out upon my face. Love made me look these ladies in the eye. The pallor of my face amazed them so. They could not help but start to speak of death. "Oh, let us comfort him," implored one lady sweetly of another. And many times they said, "What did you see that took away your strength?" Consoled and comforted somewhat, I said, "Ladies, now I shall tell you what I saw. While I was brooding on my languid life, and sensed how fleeting is our little day, Love wept within my heart, which is his home, and then my startled soul went numb with fear, and sighing deep within myself I said, 'My lady some day surely has to die.' Then taken by this fright and wonderment, I closed my heavy wept-out tired eyes, and so despaired and weak were all my spirits, that each went drifting off, and then drifting and dreaming, with consciousness and truth left far behind. I saw the looks of ladies wild with wrath, who kept on telling me, 'You'll die, you'll die.' Then, drifting in my false imaginings and standing in a place unknown to me, I seemed to be aware of dreadful things, of ladies all dishevelled as they walked, some weeping, others voicing their laments, that with grief's flame-tipped arrows pierced my heart, and then it seemed to me I saw the sun grow slowly darker and a star appear, and sun and star were weeping. The birds flying above fell dead to earth. The earth began to quake. And then a man appeared, pale-faced and hoarse, and said to me, "Have you not heard the news? Your lady, once so lovely, now lies dead." I raised my tear-beaded eyes to look above, and saw what seemed to be a rain of manna, the angels that ascended to the heavens. In front of them they had a little cloud. They sang, "Hosanna." As they rose with it, I would have told you if they had said more. Then love said, I'll not hide a thing from you. Come now to see your lady lying dead. My false imaginings led me to see my lady who was dead, and as I looked at her, I saw that ladies hid her with a cloth. Her face displayed such joyful resignation, it was as if she said, I am in peace. So humbly in my grief I then beheld what humble sweetness took its shape in her, that I said, Death, I hold you very dear. By now you ought to be a gracious thing, and should have changed your scorn for sympathy, since in my lady you have been at home. I yearned so to become one of your own. Then I resemble you in every way. My heart begs you to come. When the last rites were done, I left that place, and when I was alone, and looking toward high heaven, I exclaimed, Blessed is he who sees you, lovely soul. Just then you called me, and thank God you did. 24. I felt a sleeping spirit in my heart awake to love, and then from far away I saw the Lord of love approaching me, and hardly recognized him through his joy. Think now of nothing but to honor me, I heard him say, and each word was a smile. And as my master stayed a while with me, I looked along the way that he had come, and saw the Lady Joan and Lady Bice advancing towards the place in which I stood, a miracle upon a miracle. And as my memory tells me of it now, love said to me, The first of these is spring, and she who so resembles me is love. 26. Such sweet decorum and such gentle graces attend my lady's greeting as she walks, that every tongue is stammering, then mute, and eyes dare not to gaze at such a sight. She moves benignly in humility, untouched by all the praise along her way, and seems a creature comes from heaven to earth, a miracle manifest in reality. So charming she appears to human sight, her sweetness through the eyes reaches the heart. Who has not felt this cannot understand. And from her lips it seems there moves a spirit so gentle and so moving that it glides into the souls of men and whispers, Sigh. He sees an affluence of joy ideal, who sees my lady where the others are. All those who keep her company must give their thanks to God for such sweet grace as this. Her beauty has such influence on them that it does not provoke another's envy, but rather makes them want to be like her, to move in love and faith and graciousness. Her face gives meekness to each thing it sees, and makes not only her beatified, but adds its praise to everyone around her. So gracious is each gesture that she makes, that no one can recall her to his mind and not sigh in an ecstasy of love. 27. So long a time has love kept me a slave, and in his lordship fully seasoned me, that even though at first I felt him harsh, now tender is his power in my heart. But when he takes my strength away from me, so that my spirits seem to run away, my fainting soul is overcome with sweetness, and the color of my face begins to fade. Then in me love starts working up such power, he makes my spirits rant and wander off, and rushing out they call my lady, begging her to grant me grace. This happens every time she looks at me. I am more humbled than my words can tell. 31. The eyes grieving through pity for the heart, while weeping have endured great suffering, so that they are defeated, tearless eyes. And now if I should want to vent that grief, which gradually leads me to my death, I must express myself in anguished words. Since I remember how I loved to speak about my lady when she was alive, addressing gracious ladies, you alone, I will not speak to others, but only to a lady's tender heart. And then, lamenting, I shall tell them how she suddenly ascended into heaven, and how she left love here to grieve with me. Beatrice has ascended to high heaven, into a realm where angels live in peace. She dwells with them, and you she leaves behind. The coldness did not take her from the earth, nor was it heat, as is the fate of others. It was her great unselfishness alone, because the light of her humility cut through the heavens with such forcefulness, it even made the Lord Eternal marvel, and then a sweet desire moved him to summon up such blessedness. And from down here he had her brought to him, because he saw that our offensive life did not deserve so decorous a thing. And once removed from its enchanting form, the tender soul, perfectly filled with grace, now lives with glory in a worthy place. Who speaks of her and does not weeping speak, possesses heart of stone so hard and vile, no kindly sentiment could penetrate. No evil heart could have sufficient wit to conceive in any way what she was like, and so it has no urge to weep from grief. But sadness and desire come to sigh, and then to die a death of tears, and consolation from the soul is stripped in any one who pictures in his thoughts what she was like and how she went from us. The power of sighs fills me with anguish each time the thought brings to my weary mind the image of that one who split my heart, and many times while contemplating death, so sweet an urge to die comes over me, it drains away the color from my face. When this imagining has hold of me, bitter affliction bounds me on all sides, and I begin to tremble from the pain. Then I become so changed that shame drives me away from everyone. Then weeping all alone in my distress, I call to Beatrice, "Can you be dead?" And but to call on her restores my soul. Weeping and pain and many an anguished sigh torment my heart each time I am alone. Should someone hear me, he as well would grieve. And what my life has been since she I loved took leave of earth and went to the new realm, there is not any tongue could tell of it. And so, my ladies, even if I tried, I could not tell you what I have become. So does my bitter life entangle me, a life so much abased that every man who sees my fading face, it seems cries out to me, "I cast you out." But what I am my lady can perceive, and I still hope that she will show me grace. Now go your way in tears, sad little song, and find once more the ladies and the maidens to whom your sister poems were wont to be the messengers of joy. And you, who are the daughter of despair, go now disconsolate and stay with them. 32. Now come to me and listen to my sighs, O gracious hearts, for pity wants it so, the sighs that issue in despondency. But for their help I would have died of grief, because my eyes would be in debt to me, owing so much more than they could hope to pay, by weeping for my lady in such way that mourning her my heart might be relieved, and ceaselessly shall sighs of mine be heard, calling upon my lady who is gone to dwell where worth like hers is merited, unheard the sighs of scorn for this our life, as if they were the mournful soul itself abandoned by its hope of happiness. 33. Whenever I recall to mind, O grief, that I shall never more behold the lady that I ever mourn, such agonies packed around my heart by my pained memory, it makes me say, my soul, why don't you leave? The torments you will have to suffer here upon this earth, which even now you hate, weighed heavily upon my fearful mind. Then calling upon death, as I would call on lovely soothing peace, I say, with love so yearning, come to me, that I am jealous of whoever dies, and there is blended out of my sighs a chorus of beseeching that constantly keeps calling upon death towards this has turned each one of my desires since that day when my lady was taken from me by death's cruelty. This is because the pleasure of her beauty, having removed itself from mortal sight, was transformed into beauty of the soul, spreading throughout the heavens, a light of love that greets the angels there, and moves their keen and lofty intellects to marvel at such graciousness as hers. 34. The gracious lady came into my mind, the lady who, because of her great worth, was placed by his most lofty majesty in that calm realm of heaven where Mary is. That gracious lady came into my mind, that lady for whom love is weeping still, the moment you were called here by her power that drew you here to see what I was doing. Love, who perceived her in my memory, had come awake within my ravaged heart, and to my sighs he said, "Go forth from here," whereat each one went on his grieving way. Lamenting, they came pouring from my heart together in a single voice that often brings painful tears into my grieving eyes. But those that pour forth with the greatest pain were saying, "Today, O intellect sublime, completes a year since you went up to heaven." 35. My eyes have seen how much of pity's look displayed itself upon your countenance when you observed the bearing and the mien which often I am forced by grief to show. Then I became aware that you had seen into the nature of my darkened life, and this aroused within my heart a fear of showing through my eyes my wretched state. I fled then from your presence as I felt the tears begin to overflow my heart, that at the sight of you was overwhelmed. Later within my anguished soul I said, "For certain with that lady dwells that love that makes me go about like this in tears." 36. Color of love and air of sympathy have never so miraculously seized the face of any lady when she gazed at eyes susceptible of anguished tears, as they seized yours whenever you beheld arriving in your presence my sad face. And so through you a thought comes to my mind, such that I greatly fear my heart will split. I cannot keep my devastated eyes from looking ever and again at you, because of their desire to shed tears, and you intensify their longing so, that by this yearning they're all consumed, for in your presence they cannot weep tears. 37. The bitter tears that have been shed by you, O eyes of mine, and for so long a time, have made the tears of other persons flow for pity's sake, as you yourselves have seen. And now it seems to me you would forget, if I was so disloyal for my part, as not to take from you all chance of it, recalling to you her womb once you wept. Your infidelity fills me with care, it frightens me, and I have come to dread the lady's face that often looks on you. Never should you, until death takes your sight, forget your gracious lady who is dead. So says my heart, and afterwards it sighs. 38. A gracious thought, because it speaks of you, comes frequently to dwell a while with me, and so melodiously speaks of love, it talks the heart into surrendering. The soul says to the heart, "Who is this one that comes with consolation for our mind, and who, possessing such outrageous strength, will not allow another thought to stay?" The heart replies, "O reasonable soul, this is a tender, new spirit of love, who brings all his desire here to me. His very life and all of his intensity have come from that compassionate one's eyes, who worried so about our martyrdom." 39. Alas, within the full force of many sighs, born of the thoughts that are within my heart, the eyes are overcome and have no strength to gaze at anyone who looks at them. They have become what seems like twin desires, the one to weep, the other to show pain, and many times they mourn so much that love encircles them with martyrdom's red crown. These meditations and the sighs I breathe become so torturing within the heart that love, who dwells there, faints from so much pain, for they have on themselves, these grieving ones, the sweet name of my lady superscribed, and many words relating to her death. 40. All pilgrims moving pensively along, thinking perhaps of things that are not there. Do you travel from towns as far away as your appearance would make us believe? You do not weep as you are passing through the middle of the city in its grief. You act like those who do not understand a thing about its grievous weight of woe. If you would stop to listen to me speak, I know, from what my sighing heart is saying, that afterwards you will depart in tears. Lost is the city's source of blessedness, and words that one can say concerning her have power to bring any man to tears. 41. Beyond the sphere that makes the wildest round, passes the sigh which issue from my heart, a strange new understanding that sad love imparts to it keeps urging it on high. When it has reached the place of its desiring, it sees a lady held in reverence, splendid in light, and through her radiance the pilgrim spirit gazes at her being. But when it tries to tell me what it saw, I cannot understand the subtle words it speaks to the sad heart that makes it speak. I know it talks of that most gracious one, because it often mentions Beatrice. This much is very clear to me, dear ladies.